the Feast of Trumpets. And in this theme, the Feast of Trumpets, we have 12 themes with what Yahweh proposes or what he has proposed concerning the Feast of Trumpets. Earlier we established that the beginning of Israel's year is from the month of Abib, or the letter name called Nisan. We were also told that the month of Tishri, which is the 7th month, do not create a new beginning of the year. No. It was invented when Israelites, Judah, came out from Babylon. So it wasn't commanded that shall be another beginning of the year in the midst of Yahweh's year. There is no breakage. The beginning is Abib, which is Passover. And that, we are told, is the beginning of the months. So in the first month, of the month of Tishri, we are given to celebrate Feast of Trumpet. Why do you celebrate Feast of Trumpet? From where do you have your authority to do what you are doing? For instance, you go out there, you tell somebody, oh, today we are having our feast, or we had our feast during the week. Somebody will ask you, what feast? Say, Feast of Trumpet. What is it all about? Is it in the scriptures? Because scripture is our authority. What we call the Bible today is our authority, is the standard measurement. It's what we use to measure how we say we know him, our Father, and love him. So let us look at our scriptural authority that holds the feast we celebrate, or that commands us to celebrate what we do. We had looked at the book of Ezra, chapter 3, verse 6. There they were told on the first day of the 7th month, they should commemorate the feast of Tishri. So that is understood. Book of Nehemiah, we are told that the book even was lost when they entered into the land of Babylon, came back, and it was discovered. Torah was discovered. And they, in reading through the book of Leviticus, in reading through other books, like book of Psalm 81, verse 3, they discovered that blowing of the trumpet was given as a commandment they need to follow. We have read Leviticus 23, but we have to read it again. Leviticus 23:23. And Yahweh spoke unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, in the first day of the month, shall ye have a Sabbath. So in this particular day, we have Sabbath. In this particular day, we recognize it as something that is continual, a remembrance of a feast we have to be doing in remembrance of what? Blowing of trumpet. And what is blowing of trumpet? Of Yahweh's master plan concerning our salvation. It's not just feasts, like feast of marriage, like feast of gathering, of eating and drinking and gyrating. It's for a purpose. The purpose of this feast of trumpet, which we have to put into our agenda, program it year in, year out, it becomes a memorial, becomes something that we have to remember to do, because that memorial is also something to remember to do. We have in it to do what? To worship Yahweh, because it's a holy convocation, feast of holy convocation, and in it we shall have rest. Do no serving work herein. And in it as well, we need to appreciate Yahweh with thanksgiving. The purpose being that Yahweh is working out our salvation, our deliverance, our redemption. That if we follow the instruction he gave in the theme called Trumpet, or the Feast of Trumpet, we shall understand our bearing, where we are going, our call, and where we are going. Now, Bible talk of time appointed. In all the feasts, they are Yahweh's time appointed days, weeks. We need to celebrate him. He began with that on the month of what you call the beginning of the month, new moon. Good 18, Passover starts with the beginning of new moon. Trumpet starts with beginning, call it midway, starts with beginning of new moon. Signposting, time appointed. Psalm 81 verse 3. Time appointed. And where did it begin? Genesis chapter 1 verse 14. He made the stars, he made the moon, he made the sun, he set them for time and season to depict what? Time of our appointment with him. Season, even for us to fend for our living, to do our farming in the garden, farming in the farm in the bushes. Because Israelites, we are purely agrarian people. So that is what we are called to take note about, that the time appointed is Yahweh's own time. It's not our own time. And that is why you must not subject yourself into any other business. If you say you love him, you know him, you must obey him. You must keep his commandments. You must keep what he commanded you. Because he's not doing it to force you to do what you don't want. Rather, he's doing that to keep you in line in his plan, so that you'll be safeguarded, so that you'll be set apart to be saved. Without that, you can't be saved. And that's why I pity our brethren, particularly in other religions, who do not understand what we are doing today, who do not understand what the feast is all about. Genesis chapter 1 verse 14. But I want us to read Psalm 81 verse 3. It's referring to Genesis chapter 1 verse 14, actually. Psalm 81 verse 3. I want to read verse 3. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon. Did you hear that? Trumpet is sounded in the new moon. Blow it up. In fact, when you look at the first three, of the Passovers and so on and so forth, up to this particular Feast of Trumpet. In the Feast of Trumpet, you hear the trumpets reverberating, sounding, and made to be heard. From trumpet to atonement to tabernacles, the whole trumpet to the last day, the whole trumpet. Because the book of Revelation told us exactly. And in the time of this trumpet, we must be weary. As we are going to see in the themes, why this trumpet, what it stands for. It's time of judgment. Time Yahweh opens his books. Because all human activities, all human actions are recorded in his books. Names of people are in the book and books. Some have their name in book, the book of righteousness. Some have their names in the books of unrighteous people. So their names and their activities are written in accordance to what he commands them to be doing. And as the time of judgment approaches, as we can see it all over the world, the handwriting is all over the world, that the judgment is coming. When this trumpet will begin to shout from heaven, and Yahweh to begin to carry out what he has planned, his master plan, in order to secure Israel, in order to pull Israel out from the clutches of the world. Now, when that time is set, Yahweh will read out all the activities of every human being. And those whose names are not found in the book of righteousness shall be swept away. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed. Is it in your Bible? Yahweh's time that he gave to us. The very time he appoints that we should commemorate, we should celebrate this feast, should not joke with it. On our solemn feast day. When do we blow it? On the solemn feast day, as today. Now, we have seen where we get our authority. Scriptural authority. Ezra 3:6, Nehemiah 8:2, Leviticus 23:24, Numbers 29 verse 1, Joel 2 verse 1, and Psalm 81 verse 3. So many Bible, passages that authorize us to do what we are doing. So we are not wasting our time. We are only coming into obedience, only coming to hear Yahweh, study from him, hear from him, and get direction from him. And it is called time appointed, as we see. Why at appointed time, you will ask? Why appointed time? It is designed, the appointed time is designed by Yahweh to do what? To showcase to us, to teach us, to open our eyes to his master plan concerning our salvation. Concerning our salvation. The annual feast days are enumerated in the book of Leviticus 23. Leviticus chapter 23, all the whole feasts that Yahweh wants us to be celebrating are enumerated there. Now, they are divided into three. There are 3 times a year when all the males of Israel were to appear before the dwelling place of Yahweh. What that means is all the children of Israel must appear before Yahweh. Male there stands because male have to lead. That's how Yahweh reckons his family. Each family is numbered by the man or by the men. That is how Yahweh reckons his family. So when you see male there, male appear before Yahweh. He's talking about the family of Yahweh appear before him. because the men have to lead. Passover, they have to appear before Yahweh to the dwelling place of Yah. Now, Passover and the days of unleavened bread have been fulfilled and changed somewhat by Yahshua. Yeah, Passover, unleavened bread, and even the day of Pentecost. One will look at them as something that have been completed. Passover began in Egypt. It was all about redemption, about salvation, about liberating Israel, about bringing Israel out of captivity. So that rested in Yahshua for us in this age, to the end of age, to be partaker of what happened in Egypt. So Yahshua came, submitted his life, gave his life that we might be rescued. We might be part of this salvation. Then it has to be to whosoever believe. Because it's not given to everybody. It's not for all mankind, but to those who will believe in him and the works he did for us to give us the deliverance or salvation. Now, going forward to Pentecost, we see that the Holy Spirit came in. What is the work of the Holy Spirit concerning the Pentecost? Is the work or the feast of Pentecost stopped because Yahshua came, the Holy Spirit came, it stopped? No, he said it's memorial. You have to carry on. These memorials are three different memorials. Now, the feast is one of the memorials. So it has to be carried on until Yahshua returns. Be it Passover and unleavened bread and the Pentecost, which appear to have been fulfilled, but ongoing, is still ongoing, master plan of Yahweh. Now, if you look at Feast of Trumpet, you see that Yahweh is still having work to do. And that is why studying this feast is important for us to know what we are called to do and why Yahweh is insisting we must cue into it. Because if you are talking about fulfillment, Yahshua hasn't fulfilled this particular portion yet. Feast of Trumpet, Yahshua hasn't fulfilled it yet. Feast of Tabernacle, it hasn't been fulfilled yet. For instance, we are still in the Gentile world. We are pilgrims in a strange world. We are not yet back home. So would anybody say that it's been fulfilled? If it is fulfilled, why are you still a pilgrim? Why are you still on the journey? We are regarded as people on the journey, living in shelter. Yahweh sees us as people living in shelter. That's Feast of Tabernacle. And last great day, or the great last day, hasn't been fulfilled because it's something in the future. So you can see why the call of Yahweh for us to cue in, to put our eyes, our mind, to study where we are going, the way that leads to salvation, why we must come into what he called feasts, to cue in, to study them, so that we will not be, taken off balance when the D-Day comes. In Deuteronomy 16:16, we see where Yahweh discussed about the three feasts: Passover, unleavened bread, then Feast of Trumpet, Feast of Pentecost. Then the third portion of it is Feast of Trumpet, Feast of Atonement, Tabernacles. That is the setting. There are three there, but it's broken into 7. This 7, the summary of it is 3 feasts. We must be partaker of the 3 feasts in a year. That's what Yahweh is telling us. Before the calendar runs out, we must bring ourselves before Yahweh to celebrate them. Brethren, that is why we are gathered together. Exodus 34 verse 23 also talk about these 3 feasts. We must keep them. We must keep them. It's the demand, it's the requirement for you to love him, for you to know him, for you to be obedient unto him. The command to observe the Feast of Trumpets is found in Leviticus 23 to 25. Believe it or not, there are 12 themes associated with this one feast day, the Feast of Trumpet, even though there are only 3 verses associated with it in the book of Leviticus. Leviticus 23, only 3 verses recorded about the Feast of Trumpet. But the whole Bible captures the Feast of Trumpet. The whole Bible. So we have to look at the entire Bible this morning as much as we can to understand this call, to understand how Yahweh, has in his infinite wisdom called us to key in. It takes a study of the complete scriptures in order to distill these 12 themes. These 12 themes with their purposes. Now, in a nutshell, let me just give you a summary of what it's all about. 12 of them. Number 1, Feast of Trumpets has in its theme or holds what you need to know or what you need to study. Number 1, memorial. It's a feast of memorial, feast of constant remembrance, feast that every year you must remember to celebrate it. That's number 1. Number 2, hidden day. It is the hidden day. Did you hear that? This particular Feast of Trumpet is a hidden day. Bible wrote so much about it. We are going to get some Bible passages that talk about it. Number 3, the theme of Feast of Trumpet also referred to Day of Yahweh. Day of Yahweh. It looks close to hidden day. Number 4, it talks about opening of the gates. The Bible talks about leaved gates. Number 5, talk about Day of Judgment. That is part of the theme of Feast of Trumpet. Number 6, trumpet signpost or signifies revelation. The Feast of Trumpet, when you study it, you are being revealed into future. You are being opened to see future. Remember the book of Revelation. Remember the book of Daniel. So you are not just into Feast of, trumpet to do kind of celebration and all that. It's beyond that. Number 7, Trumpet signifies war, sword. Number 8, trumpet signifies resurrection. That is what is coming in the later days. Number 9, trumpet signifies coronation of a king. Our king is yet to come. Remember we said Feast of Trumpet is something that you need to put your eye because it hasn't been fulfilled. Number 10, it signifies marriage. When Yahshua returns, there will be marriage supper of the Lamb. Remember? It's all about the feasts. It borders within this Feast of Trumpet. Feast of Trumpets also talks about or signifies, number 11 now, shouting. Shouting can be for good, for evil. Mourning, crying. So when we talk about shouting here, can be shouting on crying aloud for evil that is on the land, or shouting for joy when Yahshua returns. Remember, something will happen on this earth. There'll be enjoyment, there'll be shouting, there'll be, joyous weeping, and so on and so forth. Number 12, trumpet signifies kingdom of Yahweh on earth. Now that is where Yahweh is going. Sunday, one day, the kingdom as it is in heaven shall be put here on earth. The earth will be covered with the glory, with the righteousness of Yahweh as the water covers the sea. Now, quickly, without wasting time, let's pick some things we can say concerning these themes. Let us look at memorial, for instance. We have looked at Leviticus 23, verse 24, and we are summoned to see that in the 7th day, which is today, the first day of the month, we shall do what? We shall celebrate Sabbaton. Sabbaton is Sabbath or Shabbat. When Israelites were in Babylon, they call it Sabbath. And the Jews know it as Shabbat. So depending on where you are, the Greeks have it as Sabbaton and so on, depending on what you call it. Even in English, you call it Sabbath and so on and so forth. Now it's a memorial day, blowing of trumpets. The Hebrew meaning of memorial or name for memorial is Zikron. Zikron. And Zikron, interestingly, is very, very important in the life of every Israelite, as it is today. Yahweh gave Israelites 3 very important memorials before, during, and after their deliverance from Egypt. And that memorial, that Zikron, is still today very important to us. Now, we have mentioned that there are 3 important memorials. What are they? Number 1, the first memorial was his name. The first memorial Yahweh gave to Israelites is his name. Exodus chapter 3, especially 13 to 15, he said to Moses, Yahweh is my name, is a memorial name for Israel from generation to generation. And David concurred in Psalm 135. Psalm 135, he wrote about this name that was given to Israel as well. Verse 13, Psalm 135, verse 13. Thy name, O Yahweh, endureth forever, and thy memorial, O Yahweh, throughout all generations. So Yahweh is the standard name. Yahweh is the revered name. Yahweh is the sacred name. Yahweh is the name that every generation must call, right from the time of the fathers to the time of Israelites in the land of Egypt, when they came out, entered into the land, till today is memorial. No other name given to us. The same thing was said about Isaiah 42, verse 8. He will not share this name with any other, idol, images, wood and stone. No, he will not. And all those wood and stone will not replace his name. Though Israelites will try to defy his name, profane his name, but they are going to pay dearly for it. At the end of the day, his name still stands. We can't change it. He said it can never be changed. Hosea chapter 2, verse 5. Is it all right? Hosea chapter 2 or Hosea chapter 12, verse 5. Let me cross check. Hosea. It's a memorial name. It has not changed. It can never be changed. Hosea. Let's see Hosea chapter 12, verse 5. Even Yahweh, Yah of hosts, Yahweh is his memorial. Did you hear that? Yahweh is his memorial. So that is the standard name. In fact, it referenced Exodus 3:15 and Psalm 135, verse 13. So that is number one memorial that is handed to us. Something that you have to hold as remembrance, his name. Number two of memorial we have to have within us. The second memorial was the Passover. Passover, very, very important. Exodus 12, verse 6, especially verse 14, given to them during their deliverance. Now, the number three memorial was the seventh day Sabbath. Sabbath is memorial. Sabbath is memorial. Exodus 16, verse 14, verse 4. Remember, Israelites were, tested in the wilderness. On what day? For what purpose? He tested them on the Sabbath to see, if that is the purpose, to see if they will serve him, if they will obey him, if they will follow him forever. But majority of them failed that test. That was what we are told, that many Israelites failed that test. Exodus 20, 8 to 11 is given as commandment, law. That Sabbath is a law. The seventh day we must remember it and to keep it holy. In fact, memorial was even recognized there as remember. Remember. So always you remember it. Particularly verse 8. Exodus 20, verse 8. A search of the scriptures reveals that the number 7 is extremely important to Yahweh. The seventh day of the week was hallowed or made holy and set aside as a rest day in the very beginning. In Genesis chapter 21, we find that the number 7 is associated with making and swearing an oath, a witness, and a covenant, especially verses 23 and 24, 27 to 32. The first day of the seventh month is found to be extremely important because even though it is the fourth high day of the sacred calendar year, it begins the seventh month, wherein the final 4 annual high days are contained and observed. That has to be very significant with Yahweh when when the number 7 is involved. What he's trying to tell us here is that the number 7, you find out that even the feasts are 7. There are other feasts quite all right, but Yahweh, in his infinite wisdom, decided to allow us to hold to 7, celebrate them. The days were created numbered 1 to 7. The 7th day he rested. And the years he gave man in terms of millennium is 7. On the 7th he will return. And that is what the writer of Hebrew was trying to narrate. Hebrew chapter 4 in particular. He said, we should not behave like our fathers of old, who were given the same law, the same Torah, the same word, the same commandments. They trodden it on the ground, and they were not able to enter. That we should hasten, particularly any day we hear of his word, we should not harden our hearts, so that we'll be able to make it where? In the millennium, when we will be called into the kingdom. We will be part of him, to reign with him. So we find out that reckoning with the 7th, number 7, that has to do with completion, also look at the latter days, whereby Yahweh has marked fulfillment of everything, particularly bringing us into salvation. So millennium is very, very important, which is part of this 7th day that was spoken about in Hebrews chapter 4. So 7 is a very important number for Yahweh. It marks completion, and by the time everything zeroes to the millennium, he would have completed all that he has programmed. His master plan would have been completed in terms of salvation of mankind. So memorial, or something to remember, feast to remember, has been handed to us. We have no excuse whatsoever not to keep them. We have no excuse to proffer or profess other doctrine into it, which will cut off his program. If we try to institute our own program or our own timetable or appointed time, or we leave the feast he gave to us and pursue another feast, which is very common today in the Gentile world, where there are other feasts like Easter, Christmas, Valentine, Halloween, New Year, and so on and so forth, which people pursue, if we do that, we'll be undermining his feasts. And we are cutting ourselves from his plan. And he has told us, if we do that, we will be putting ourselves into trouble. Should not do that. Now, another thing is hidden. That the trumpet is a hidden, appointed time only for the people of Israel. It is made open. The secret. It's like what you are hearing here is only for you. It's only for those who will come into Yahweh's master plan, like taking part in his feasts, all of the feasts, including this feast of trumpet. So if we are careful, we come into his teaching, into his guidance, we'll be able to appreciate what he has laid down, which other people may not have knowledge or prior information about. Knowledge is power. For you to move forward, for you to be part of the kingdom tomorrow, you have to learn. That's why Yeshua called us to be disciples, to be learners, to be students, to be hearers, obedient people. Follow his instruction. If we follow continually to the end, we are disciples indeed. John chapter 8, verse 31 and 32. So that is what is given to us. But People play around with it. People toy around with it. The new moon of the 7th month is usually the most difficult new moon to spot. This particular time, I was mentioning a while ago that some people had already celebrated it. This month of Tishri is difficult to pinpoint because perhaps that is its nature. For you to find out. At times it comes, at times it's like it hesitates, at times it's like it is out, at times it's like it hasn't. So it's just very difficult to spot out. But then, if we follow strictly the instruction from the scriptures, we will not miss it. All we need to do, wherever we are in this part of the world, in any part of the world, we have to watch out when the new moon is about to set in. So we begin to prepare ourselves for this particular feast. The Jews make this a 2-day feast because of this. That is because of a little bit of difficulty trying to ascertain the actual day. So instead of keeping it 1-day feast from sunset to sunset, they make it 2 days, 2 sunsets, instead of making it 1 day. So how do we know we are into the right day of celebrating this feast? Because the sun set yesterday evening, and all over the world, though some people may see it before us and all that. However, the truth remains that as soon as the sun sets, you begin this feast in order to follow the proper timetable of Yahweh. Master, will thou at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel? Acts chapter 1, 6-7, we heard a query came concerning the appointed time. Appointed time of what? Restoration of kingdom. It is something that is hidden. The disciples tried everything they could to find out from Yeshua when this kingdom will set in. I must tell you frankly that many people had fallen away, call them false prophets. We hear that in the Seventh-day Adventists, the people of the ancient, call them earliest, people who propagated the Sabbath, the 7th-day Sabbath, 17th, 18th century, and so on and so forth. Most of them we are trying to maybe read from their head and say, Yeshua will be coming so and so, and this age will be closing so and so. So they gave the time, try to give the people timetable, and people prepare themselves, and so on and so forth. Of recent time, there's this Worldwide Church of God. I don't know whether we've heard about them. Worldwide Church of God. In 1975, their members, most of their leaders, prophesied that Yeshua will soon return, or Yeshua will come that year. And eventually, when it failed, they give 10 years. They say, there was a little error in calculation. And that wasn't to come. And about 1985, after the people waited, Yeshua didn't appear. And around 1990, there was such a message again. All this had been coming from people who are not paying attention to the word of Yeshua. We can hear the disciples, because the disciples would have made the same mistake by trying to read the time from their own imagination. They would have begin to declare to people, oh, in next 50 years, in next, just begin to give time. But Yeshua told us we should not push ourselves into the timetable. There is a timetable that Yahweh keep for himself. This hidden part of the feast time. Yahweh hid within it the coming of Yeshua from the eyes, from the mind of people. Yahweh didn't disclose it to Yeshua. Neither did Yeshua disclose anything to the disciples. Yeshua said he didn't even know about it. So when the disciples prompted Yeshua, when will this restoration be? Because restoration will come when Yeshua returns. When will this restoring the kingdom to Israel be? So Yeshua answered them, said, it is not for you to know the times or the seasons. In this way, something that Yahweh had hidden or kept for himself, don't poke nose into it. Don't begin to, trying to figure out what you think is obvious. If Yahweh didn't disclose to you, don't say it. He said that it is what the Father has put in his own power. He kept it for himself. In book of Mark, chapter 13, verses 31 to 37, Yeshua told his disciples that no one but the Father knows of that day and hour, not the angels, nor even Yeshua himself. Mark chapter 13, 31 to 37. So it becomes very, very important for us to pay attention, close attention to what Yeshua taught, what was given to us in the Torah, to follow his instruction. Yeshua said, in this case, do not put your eyes, because it's one of the most hidden part of what is given to man. So, as we celebrate the Feast of Trumpet, particularly when we look at the book of Daniel and book of Revelation, we should not put a date when Yeshua will restore Israel, or when the last trumpet will sound. Only Yeshua has the timetable and knows when it will happen. Day of Yahweh, that is the third of memorial. The third of the theme in Feast of Trumpet. It connotes Day of Yahweh. Feast of Trumpet also connotes Day of Trumpet. Both Israel and Judah have turned away from their Creator. Their Creator is the Father, our Father in heaven, and our husband, whose name is Yahweh. Their own history proves this fact, that Yahweh is their Creator, is their Father. But how is it that our Father that created us, that owns us, gave us what we have to look out for, commanded us to do something, and we choose to do things that, appeal to us instead of following his instructions? The Feast of Trumpets represents the intervention of Yahweh into not only the world's affairs, but to correct and chasten the Hebrews for their waywardness. So Yahweh gave us the Feast of Trumpet for him to do what? For him to bring us into correction, and for him to position us to understand the world, the strange world we live in, and to help us to walk in these affairs of life so that we will not be entangled in it. Mainly, regarding Day of Yahweh, it is appointed time Yahweh wants to do a correction. Yahweh wants to do a complete correction, making sure that those that are being saved will be saved. The Feast of Trumpets represents the day of Yahweh. Isaiah proclaims in Isaiah chapter 2, 10 to 17, enter into the rock and hide thee in the dust for fear of Yahweh and for the glory of his majesty. The lofty looks of man, there is Adam, shall be humbled, and the haughtiness there in Hebrew is Rum, R-U-W-M. And writers have looked at that as Rome. That is, he's saying, Israel, this is the way you should go. Do this, and get yourself self-guided. Because there will be a time when Rome will stand against you. The Roman Empire, the Greek Empire, all those empires that you see in Daniel chapter 2, that, started from Babylon, going down to the two legs, which is the latter part of, Babylon, called Rome, the two legs. Now, they will come against you because they will be so popped off, they will be so haughty, they will think they are in control of the earth, and they will go against you. Now, Yahweh continued, the lofty looks of man shall be humbled, and the haughtiness of men shall be bowed down, and Yahweh alone shall be exalted in that day. Only those who pay attention to Yahweh will be hidden, will be kept secret, will be put in a pavilion, will be covered, protected. When the nations will rise against Israel, only those that have been paying attention will be protected. For the day of Yahweh of hosts shall be upon everyone that is proud and lofty. He shall be brought low, and upon all the cedars of Lebanon, and that are high and lifted up, and upon all the oaks of Bashan, and upon all the high Ruan or Roman mountains. All these are the, last days Gentile world that will rise against Israel, and upon all the hills that are lifted up, and upon every high tower, and upon every fenced wall, and upon all the ships of Tarshish, and upon all the pleasant pictures. For the loftiness of man shall be bowed down, and the haughtiness of men shall be made low, and Yahweh alone shall be exalted in that day. Yahweh wants us to abide in his instruction, obey him, follow his feast, the plan of his salvation he gave to us, so that when Yahweh will rise, because when his anger, this day of Yahweh is day of anger, it's time Yahweh is going to visit the wicked. So during that time, those that are obedient will be saved. Those that have been living haughty, proud, lofty, that have so lifted themselves up above everything that is known of Yahweh, Yahweh will cut them off. Jeremiah calls this day the day of Jacob's trouble. That is the day of Jacob's trouble. Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 7. But he adds that he shall be saved out of it. Israel shall be saved. Jacob shall be saved out of the trouble. Who are they that will be saved? Those that know him, those that love him, those that abide and had continued to live in his word, the disciples. They are Israelites. They are the people that he has chosen. Ezekiel speaks of the end that is coming. Yahweh says that he is going to pour his fury out upon the land of Israel, because the rod of violence and pride has budded and blossomed into a rod of wickedness. Today, where you call Israel, Jerusalem, is like Sodom and Gomorrah. What happens all over the world, in Europe, in Africa, in America, in Asia, is happening there. It's not supposed to be so. It's supposed to be sacred, holy people, people that have been, consecrated to Yahweh. that's supposed to live in accordance to Yahweh's word, Yahweh's way. Then they refused and followed the Gentiles. And they outlive the Gentiles, outsmart the Gentiles. They live. Even they showcase the Gentiles how to live wicked life, unrighteous life. So that place has become Sodom and Gomorrah. And Yahweh is saying here that in the day of Yahweh, that place will get it hot, hot. It will be overthrown. The trumpet will be blown, but none will go to battle because of the wrath of Yahweh that will be poured out upon the multitude. When Yahweh blow the trumpet, when the enemies left, right, and center will come to overthrow that land, no man in that land will have power to rise against the enemies. Yahweh is going to go after them. Zephaniah declares that the day of Yahweh is a time of the trumpet and alarm. Zephaniah chapter 1 verse 16. It is a day of wrath, trouble, distress, wasteness, desolation, gloominess, clouds, and thick darkness. That is what Yahweh called day of Yahweh. It's not a day of jolly. It's not a day of Sabbath or ceremonies or feasts. No. It's a time of judgment. Call it day of Yahweh. The blood of men will be poured out like dust, and their flesh will be as dung. Chapter 1 verse 17 there is still talking about Zephaniah. Chapter 1 verse 17. Yahweh will make a speedy riddance of all who dwell in the land. Verse 18. Chapter 1 verse 18. Zechariah declares that all nations will come against Jerusalem to battle. Oh. Jerusalem will receive it hot in these latter days. It hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened yet. And Yahshua said, Gentiles will continue to occupy Jerusalem until his return. And that until his return, before Gentiles will get out of that land, they will be so devastated and the land will follow. So those who have lived in the Gentile, messed it up, they will be destroyed. And Yahweh will deal with all Israelites who follow suit. And even showed the Gentiles how to do much more wickedness. Yahweh will deal with them. The city will be taken, the houses rifled, the women ravished with half of the city going into captivity. These, along with many other places in the prophets, declare the wrath and fury that Yahweh will pour out upon the earth because of the waywardness of man. Here will begin his judgment upon the houses of Israel, and then will turn upon the non-Hebrew, the Gentiles, the Gentile nations. They will be visited after Israelites, particularly the land of Jerusalem would have been devastated. But he will eventually deliver Israel out of it. So there will be a remnant that will be left, and they will be delivered from all the atrocities that happened in the land. Number 14 of Feast of Trumpet, opening of the gates. What is it about? Bible talked about two-leaved gates, brass. If you look at it again, you see, Daniel chapter 2 is like a picture signposting the age, the human age, particularly the history of Israel, the relationship between Israel and Yahweh. If they continue to live with Yahweh, Yahweh will cover them, protect them from nations. And gradually they will take over and rule the entire nation or nations. But that was not to be. Israel never paid attention to the instruction of Yahweh. As a result, the table overturned. The Gentile world, the nations now got hold of Israel, because Israel left their covering, Yahweh, and began to pursue the Gentiles. And Gentiles swallowed them. And that, as a result, it was pictured that the last two leaf gates in the latter days, in fact, it started all the way from Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, going down to Medes and Persia, then Greece and the Gentile Roman Empire. At the end of the day, Israel never learned lesson. Israel had been in their womb. Israel has no way to escape. They have been swallowed, but they need deliverance. Yahweh will intervene to open the two leaf gates. The first intervention came in the time of Medes and Persia, when Yahweh raised Cyrus to deliver those that went into the land of Babylon. In these latter days, Yahweh will come in to save both Judah, that later misbehaved and was thrown into the whole world. So in these latter days, Yahshua will come in and do what? And deliver the entire Israelites. So Yahshua is like a kind of Cyrus that will be coming in the latter days to do what? To open the two-leaf gates. And that will be the time, the two-legged legs of the so-called Babylon. Remember the head. Babylon, the head is gold. The chest is Medes and Persia, which is silver. The thigh somewhere there is Greece. At the end of the day, that is the brass. And the iron, the legs, the two legs. The brass and the two legs now appear to be what is holding Israel never to escape. But in this latter days, only Yahshua will do it. Only Yahshua will sort them out. And this Greek brass, because the power in the image of Daniel chapter 2 is designated by these metals: gold, silver, brass, iron. So Christianity found itself in brass, which is the stronghold of Greece. Then they were wrecked into the iron, and they are also cut up. So there is no way out for them. But what will keep even the remnant Israelites going is because they will put their eyes in the instruction given. That instruction they put their eyes and their heart and continue to do, which Yahshua also called disciples. So they are disciples. Those who will be disciples, who will continue to live in obedience, Yahshua will come to rescue them in these latter days because of following the instructions. Yahweh had warned Israel that if they refused to obey him, he would make their heaven as brass and their earth as iron. Brass is represented by the grease, or grease represents the metal. Brass represents Greece. Iron represents the Roman Empire. And they are still alive today. Deuteronomy 24:23. We are told about this. He also declared that Israel's brow was brass and their neck iron. Interestingly, Yahweh overthrew Israel, placing them under the power of world ruling governments, which were gold, Babylon, silver, Persia, brass, Greece, and iron, Rome, in succession, one after the other. Israel has been swallowed from Babylon, Medes and Persia to Greece, Greece to Rome. And up to today, because of disobedience, they have been under the womb of these powers. The Greeks were democratic in government format, while the Romans were republican. Does this ring a bell with us today? It does. Does, certainly. Because today we hear about the Democrats, we hear about the Republican, whether in America or in Europe and so on and so forth. That is what is going on. This is what has been foreseen by Moses, by Jeremiah, by Ezekiel, by the prophets. And the Israel of old knew it. So when they fell away from the realm that Yahweh called them to live in accordance to his word, they fall in the hands of this brass and iron that has what depicts today governmental form or format, governmental format of democracy and republican. Furthermore, the Christian religion is Greek brass in nature. Thus, the prophecy of turning their heaven into brass has also been fulfilled. The Greeks hated the Hebrews and anything associated with Yahweh because they wanted to exalt their supreme deity called Zeus. Remember, from Zeus, Christianity had their deity. Trace history, check history. History will tell you that Bible is accurate. Yahweh told Israel through Moses, Deuteronomy chapter 4, told them, you'll be driven out from me. You'll be scattered into the world. Guess what? In the world, they worship wood and stone. And that is what you're going to worship. You're not going to worship Yahweh. Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 27 and 28. That is clear. Deuteronomy 32, 16 and 17. That is clear. Deuteronomy 38. Yahweh reels all that out. If you're obedient, if you commit to me, these blessings will follow you. If you don't, these curses will follow you. Can say that Yahweh was still pursuing
28 or 38.
Ezekiel, Deuteronomy 28.
28, not 38.
Deuteronomy 38, 32 is still talking about idols that are going to worship in the Gentile world. It's saying the same thing. Now, the fall away will cause Israel to be swallowed by the Gentiles. That's the statement Yahweh is making there. So at the end of the day, they fell worshiping the deities of the Gentiles. Zeus was the chief amongst them in Greece land. And that was incorporated, the brass. The Christianity held to this brass and they fell headlong. And they have been swallowed with that brass and its religion up to today. Christianity has been deceived to do this very thing. They are, therefore, shut up behind the gates of brass and iron to this day. It is prophesied, thus says Yahweh to his anointed, to Cyrus. Remember, Cyrus was the first Messiah for Judah that went into Babylon to deliver them, to set them free. A type of Cyrus is coming back in these latter days in person of Yeshua. Now, Yahweh wrote Isaiah 45 verses 1 to 4. Thus says Yahweh to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have holding, to subdue nations before him, and I will loose the loins of kings, all these kings that held his people, to open before him the two-leaved gates. Brass and iron are the two-leaved gates. Israelites are in it, particularly those that call themselves Christians today, that are held up by these two-leaf gates. And the gates shall not be shut. I will go before thee. So when Yahweh comes, open the two-leaf gates, it will not be shut. Cyrus did it for Israel to come out and make the crooked places straight. So he's going to make sure that when he delivers, he opened the gates and his people will come out. I will break in pieces the gates of brass, because they've been held so much a long time that when he intervenes, nothing will stand against his people any longer. I will break in pieces the gates of brass and cut in asunder the bars of iron. Whether it is Babylon, whether it is Medes and Persia, whether it is Greeks, or whether it is Roman Empire, the iron, Yahweh says is going to clear them. And I will give thee the treasures of darkness and the hidden riches of secret places, that thou mayest know that I, Yahweh, which called thee by thy name, am the Yah of Israel. For Jacob, my servant's sake, and Israel, my elect, I have even called thee by thy name. I have summoned thee, thou, though thou hast not known me. Here, Yahweh was referring to Cyrus. Cyrus, you are going to do assignments for me. You are going to deliver my people from this captivity, from this hostage, from where they are held slaves. You are going to bring them out from this captivity, and you are going to set them free. So a type of Cyrus is expected, and that is what the children of Yahweh is expecting in these latter days. Cyrus was the name. Cyrus was the king of Persia who overthrew Babylon, while Persia was in succession with the metallic kingdoms of Daniel chapter 2. It was during the time of the reign of the Persian kings that a contingency of Hebrews, that is the tribe of Judah, who were exiled there, returned to the land to rebuild the temple at Jerusalem. Thus, Cyrus is a type of the Messiah Yeshua, who will intervene in the world affairs in the latter days to overthrow the last two metallic kingdoms of Greece and Rome. Remember, Daniel chapter 2 predicted that Yeshua will come. A stone that was cut without hand will shatter the feet of the image. So that is this brass and iron will be shattered, and the Israelites will be released from their bondage. The kingdoms of brass and iron will be shattered. All of the people of the earth have been shut up behind the gates of brass and iron. The brass and iron are typology of the governments and the religions of Greece and Rome. Soon, Yahweh is going to open those gates and set the people free from the true Messiah, Yeshua. The book of Psalms proclaims, "Oh, that men would praise Yahweh for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men. For he has broken the gates of brass and cut the bars of iron in asunder." Have you heard that? That is where this proclamation from Psalm 107, 15 to 16 came about. Psalm 107, 15 to 16. David knew about this. When these gates of brass and iron are finally broken, that is, when they are shattered in pieces, then the gates of righteousness will be opened forever for mankind, for all those that believe in Yeshua and his works. Isaiah 26, 1 to 4. In that day shall this song be sung in the land of Judah. We have a strong city. Salvation will Yah appoint for walls and bulwarks. Open ye the gates, that the righteous nation, which keepeth the truth, may enter in. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusts in thee. Trust ye in Yahweh forever, for in Yahweh is everlasting strength. Isaiah 26, 1 to 4. How can we achieve this righteousness spoken here in Isaiah chapter 26? How can we achieve it? How can we achieve it to escape? How can we maintain it? We are called to it. We are asked to keep his memorial feasts. We are asked to dedicate ourselves doing what he asks us to do, even when it looks foolish, even when it looks stupid, even when it looks, in the eyes of the world, when they think that what you are doing is funny. How can you escape in the eyes of the world that will laugh at you, that will mock at you, that will jeer at you, that will tell you that their wisdom is far than what you are reading, what you know, what you have been given? Will you not succumb to their call? Will you not fall to their plan of wickedness, unrighteousness, their plots that rebel against the word of Yahweh? Through the true door to righteousness, Yeshua the Messiah, we will escape. And he said, verily, verily, I say unto you, he that entereth not by the door into the sheepfold, but climbeth up some other way, the same is a thief and a robber. So you must come to Yeshua. You must follow his instructions. You must know him, must love him, must do what pleases the Father for you to escape. Or else you become like a thief that climbs through the window, a robber that doesn't come through the right channel, the right way. But he that entereth in by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. Then said Yeshua unto them again, verily, verily, I say unto you, I am the door of the sheep. All that ever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. I am the door. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out and find pasture. John 10, 1-2 and 7-9. And to the angel of the assembly in Philadelphia write, these things says he that is holy, he that is true, he that has the key of David, he that openeth and no man shutteth, and shuts and no man opens. I know thy works. Behold, I have set before thee an open door. Yeshua is the open door. And no man can shut it. For thou hast a little strength, and hast kept my word, and hast not denied my name. Yeshua is looking for he that will keep his name, keep his word, keep his truth. Remember, the memorials he gave to us is the name of the Father, and in this sense, name of Yeshua. Another memorial is for us to keep the feasts. Another memorial is for us to keep the Sabbath. Are you obedient? Are you keeping his commandments? In this Revelation chapter 7 and 8, he called it, he summarizes it as keeping his name, keeping to his name and his commandments. It is also in the book of Revelation that a trumpet is sounded and a door is opened. Revelation chapter 4 verse 1. To reveal things that should take place hereafter. That's what that trumpet that sounded has for us, revealing things that will happen in this earth, in these latter days. The sounding of a trumpet on the day of trumpets will break asunder the lead gates of Babylon the Great, the gates of brass and iron, setting the people free to enter into the door, the gate of righteousness. You can see what this feast of trumpet holds, the teaching that is in it, that we are caged all over the world because Israelites, as it were, had rebelled against Yahweh, followed the Gentile world. As a result, the Gentile world bounced on them, swallowed them up, and they are still in the womb of the Gentile world, practicing their religion, practicing their cultures, practicing their feasts, practicing all that they have. Israel have lost their track. Like Judah, when they went into Babylon, by the time they came back, they lost the Torah. They lost the law. Until somebody discovered it, they said, we have found the law. Then they began to do the feast again. They began to keep the Sabbath again. They began to call the name of Yahweh. But at that time, the name of Yahweh had been defined, had been punctuated. They had changed the name of Yahweh. Instead of Yahweh, they were calling him Adonai. And as a result, they had problem. Even with the name of Yahweh they fell out from, caused them massive problem that they didn't recognize Yeshua. Because Yeshua asked them in John chapter 8, if you had known the Father, you would have known me. That means whom you are calling is not the Father. That's why you don't know me. And that's why you're against me. Beloved, it takes his mercy. And he has shown us his mercy, his faithfulness. His graces has been given to us in abundance. What remains is us supplying ourselves, making ourselves available to his call, to this message of keeping the Sabbath, message of keeping the feasts, message of holding to his name. These are memorials, 3 memorials given to us in the Torah, in the scriptures. And we are joking with them. Why? Because we are in the womb of brass and iron. Iron and brass won't let go. But there are remnants that no matter how they are squeezed by brass and iron, they will continue to put their ears and their eyes and love Yahweh and continue to fellowship with Yeshua. Number 5, time will not permit us to get to all of them. But number 5 is talking about Yahweh's judgment, day of judgment, which is what the feast of trumpets and posts is what it depicts. It's like the other one we just recalled, the day of Yahweh. They're almost sounding the same way. But here, strategically, Yahweh is launching out to deal with the wicked. Each month was attributed to one of the tribes of Israel. All the months, right from Abib, Nisan, going down to the last 12 months, they were like the 12 tribes of Israel. Those each month captured one tribe of Israel. Now the 7th month is, people have subscribed that to Dan, the tribe of Dan. Let us hear what the writers had to say concerning that. The 7th month was attributed to the tribe of Dan. Dan means to judge. That is the meaning of Dan, to judge. Peter writes, quoting Peter in 2 Peter chapter 3, 1-3 and verse 9. But there were false prophets also among the people, even as there shall be false teachers among you, who privily shall bring in damnable heresies, even denying Yahweh that brought them, and bring upon themselves swift destruction, and many shall follow their pernicious ways, because they are held by brass and iron. They will be unstable. They will not pay attention. They will turn to the Gentile world more than turning to the word of Yahweh. By reason of whom the way of the truth shall be evil spoken of, and the true covetousness shall they with feigned ways make merchandise of you, whose judgment now of a long time lingered not, and the damnation slumbered not. Yahweh knoweth how to deliver the righteous out of temptations, and to reserve the unjust unto the day of judgment to be punished. Anybody who is struggling with the word of Yahweh, let him wait for the judgment. All that the life of that person is waiting for is judgment. Because the person is saying, Yahweh, come, let us fight. Let us fight. I cannot obey you. Therefore, let us dig it out. It's crazy. This second epistle, beloved, I now write unto you, in both which I stir up your mind, your pure minds, by way of remembrance, that ye may be mindful of the words which we have spoken before by the holy prophets, and of the commandment of us, the apostles of sovereign and Savior, knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lusts, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? You say it's going to come, it's going to come. Where is that? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation. For this they willingly are ignorant of, that by the word of Yahweh the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water, whereby the world that then was, being overflowed with water, perished. But the heavens and the earth, which are now by the same word, are kept in store, reserved unto fire against the day of judgment and perdition of unrighteous men. 2 Peter 3:1-7. When we read something like this, it simply reminds us what happened in the time of Noah. It's going to happen again. And Yeshua told us clear that as it was in the days of Noah, as it was in the days of Lot and his people, so will it be even in this later age. They are going to experience similar what happened then. Overthrow. That way is going to overthrow the wicked in this earth. A day of judgment is coming at the end of this age. That judgment is specifically to be trumpeted in against Babylon and its successors. And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people, saying with a loud voice, fear Yahweh, and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth, and the sea, and the fountains of waters. And there followed another angel, saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Revelation chapter 14, 6-8. The Babylonian system will fall. The Gentile world will fall. This system is filled with the merchandising of a great overburdening political and religious system. The kings and merchants of the earth are especially involved in this great system. While Babylon began as a head of gold, its latter end is shown to be filled with devils, foul spirits, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Revelation 18, 1-18, 1-10. Revelation 18, 1-10. Remember, Yahweh says that he has 4 terrible, evil, fallen demon angels. Those angels that fell, from their estate. He had them locked up around Euphrates in the ancient Babylon area. That he's going to release them in these latter days. Remember, all those fallen demons, they were captains on their own, and they have massive devils that work with them. And they're going to, he said he's going to release them on earth. And if you ask me, I can tell you that signs of such a thing is happening. Signs of such things are happening. Yahweh is going to release them. And they are going to cause mayhem. Those who have no standing in Yahweh, they are going to be swept away. Going to be swept away. Her judgment, when it comes, will come swiftly. In one day, the day of trumpets. Her judgment will come in 1 hour. Revelation chapter 18, verse 10. While Yahweh's people must live under this system until the appearance of the kingdom of heaven, they must not take part in its political and religious evils. Hallelujah. Did you hear that? The system that is going on now has its religion and has its political machinery that they are using to lock up all those that are locking up or they have locked up, put them under their cage. And if you are following with them, associating with them, confederating with them, Yahweh said, do not confederate with them. Isaiah chapter 8. Do not confederate with them. So if you are locking up yourself in their political terrain and their religious ways, tell me how you'll be delivered. Tell me. And that is why it looks and it appears, if you look at the true Israelites, they don't have anything to do with the world religion or world politics. No. They are removed from world religion, world politics, because they are tied by brass and iron. Because those are the two areas or two the tools they are using to make sure that everybody is held under their power. Trumpets signify revelation. Yeshua began to, we are talking about the sixth theme of trumpets. Trumpets signify revelation. Yeshua began to reveal things to the Apostle John through the sound of a great voice as of a trumpet. Revelation chapter 1 verse 10. Revelation 1:10. The book of Revelation is composed of 7 seals, 7 trumpets, plagues, and 7 vials. Yahweh will reveal his judgment on the Babylonian systems of this world and also reveal who his people are during this period of time. Paul writes, for the sovereign Yahweh, Yeshua Messiah, shall descend from heaven with a shout and with the voice of the archangel and with the trump of Yahweh, and the dead of the Messiah shall rise first. 1 Thessalonians 4 verse 16. Interestingly, the word voice in the above verse is translated from the Greek word phone. Phone. It comes from another Greek word, phaino, and promotes the idea of disclosure, that is revelation. This voice is the voice of the archangel or chief messenger. All of the writings of Moses, the Psalms, prophets, and apostles focus on the chief messenger of Yahweh, which is Yeshua the Messiah. This will be revealed in its entirety in that day of trumpets when the last or 7th trumpet is blown in heaven. When the last trumpet will be blown in heaven, lots of things will be happening on earth. And automatically that will be the release of the saints that are dead. That will be the release of the saints that are in this earth, held by brass and iron. And they will now flee and swear to receive their master, Yeshua Messiah. And that will be the end of Gentile trouble or Gentile war against the children of Israel, who have been living in rebellion since they are called. Question I and you must respond to is, do I query the word of Yahweh? Am I observant to the memorial he called my attention? Memorial on his Sabbath day, memorial on his feasts, and memorial of his name. Those are keys. If you don't learn any other thing today, learn about these memorials, these 3 memorials, which is signposted in the Feast of Trumpet. Learn them, understand them, follow them dearly. Let them be written in your heart, in your mind, and let them wake you up at all times to follow, to comply with the word of Yahweh. There and then you will see yourself to know him and to love him. And to know him and to love him means that you are abiding in his commandments. You are a follower of Yeshua. You are a messenger of Yeshua. You are a servant of Yeshua. You are a disciple of Yeshua. You are obedient servant. And at the end, the two-leaf gates will be open. No matter how they lock it up, it will surely, and nobody will close it until all the saints come out of it. And they will be saved, be brought into their kingdom. And they will begin to reign. This is the plan of Yahweh. This is why this trumpet is blown. Let it get into the ears of people. Let people begin to ask, why the trumpet? What is it about? What note is it, decoding? What information has it got? All this that we have been doing since trying to recall what is said of old by prophets in the Torah, by Yeshua, is what, not only this feast of trumpet, all the feasts is reeling out to showcase that one day salvation, redemption, and a place called the kingdom of Yahweh will be, made available for children of Israel. And Yeshua is going to be their king. And by extension, Yeshua is going to be in control, in charge of the whole earth. Because when the image in the book of Daniel chapter 2 is caught, is sliced, is crushed, he will take over the government of the world. And he will continue the Father's kingdom here on earth. We are stopping here thus far. And by this Sabbath, by his grace, I'm going to conclude the remainder, about 5 of them that is left, because time will not permit us to. It's massive, message that is here. We need to appreciate and appropriate, understand, follow them through, so that we know what we are doing. All these feasts are not given to us in vain. They are given to us for us to be educated, for us to have understanding, and for us to follow through. So that all the brass and iron that hold us, though they may be, we are in them, but they are not going to keep you without knowledge. You have the knowledge, you have the understanding, and continue to be focused, waiting for our master to come and tear that, break asunder all that clutches of brass and iron. May that be our portion. May we hear, may we be able and available to do all he commands us to do. And may all those bring blessings to you. In Yeshua's name we have prayed. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.